السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ضرب الله مثلا للذين كفروا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط كانتا تحت عبدين من عبادنا صالحين فخانتاهما فلم يغنيا عنهما من الله شيئا وقيل ادخلا النار مع الداخلين. وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. صدق الله العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in multiple places in the Qur'an, throughout the Qur'an, He mentions Jannah, He mentions Jahannam, He mentions the believers, He mentions the disbelievers. He does targhib, He does tarhib. He strikes awe in the hearts of mankind, and He also motivates and encourages them. And the question that I want to start off today's talk with is, who are our role models and what are the characteristics that we see in our role models? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about two groups, four individuals in Sūrah al-Taḥrīm. You have the wife of Nuh, the wife of Lut, the wife of Firʿawn, and then Maryam alayhi salam. These four individuals. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us the criteria for who our role models should be and the qualities that they should have. And the individual I want to focus on is who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to as Imra'atu Fir'aun, the wife of Fir'aun, whose name is Asiya bint Muzahim. And we'll get to in a minute, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not call her by her name and refer to her as Imra'atu Fir'aun? But even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described her as the wife of Fir'aun, who is honestly the scum of the earth, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved his body so it's a sign until the end of time that this is what happens to you when you disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You disbelieve in Allah, you don't appreciate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you from Iman and Islam, then this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to be a picture for until the end of time. And that's why his body is preserved in the museum for the entire world to see. Even though she was his wife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still said, وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا امْرَأَةَ فِرْعَوْنَ. He described her as the one who believed. And not only did she just believe, don't get me wrong, we have Iman as well, we have belief as well, but her belief was perfect. And there aren't that many individuals who the Prophet ﷺ said have perfect Iman. In a hadith, he states that there are many men that have perfect Iman. كَمُلَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ كَثِيرٌ. Many men have perfect Iman. وَلَمْ يَكْمُلْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. But there are only a select few of women who have perfect Iman. And he listed them out. He says, إِلَّا Maryam bint Imran. Number one is Maryam. Number two, Asiya imra'atu Fir'aun. And then he said, وَفَضْلُ عَائِشَةَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ كَفَضْلِ الثَّرِيدِ عَلَى سَائِرِ الطَّعَامِ. And the virtue of Aisha radiallahu anha over all of the women is like the virtue of this special occasional dish amongst the Arab called the tharid over all other dishes. Yani she is given one of the highest ranks, Aisha radiallahu anha. But the Prophet ﷺ mentioned Asiya by name. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned Asiya in the Qur'an, which gives her such importance and kind of allows us to think that why is this woman who grew up in such a environment where she honestly didn't need to struggle too much because of her family lifestyle and how she was amongst kings, and she had an arranged marriage with Fir'aun, and obviously when you're the queen you get to say whatever happens and it happens. So why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about her in the Qur'an? Why did He specifically use her as an example in the Qur'an? The phrase or the sentence that she stated was a amazing and beautiful sentence that we all can take heed. Every single phrase and every single word of that sentence is just filled with emotions and filled with meaning. Where she said, إِذْ قَالَتْ رَبِّ بِلِنِي عِنْدَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ. She said that, oh Allah, that build for me عِنْدَكَ, near you, بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ, a house in Jannah. وَنَجِّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ, and save me from Fir'aun and his actions. وَنَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, and save me from the oppressors. This is the dua that she made. And if we look at these two verses, the verse in regards to Asiya and the verse in regards to the wife of Nuh and Lut alayhi salam, we understand that affiliations or having such a family member or a brother or a sister or a husband or spouse is not going to guarantee that you're going to be in Jannah. Just because you're related to them, or just because you're Arab, or just because you're this or that, does not automatically guarantee that you're going to be going to Jannah. That doesn't guarantee anything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to look at your individual struggle and the individual emotion that you showed for His sake and His sake only. That's how you'll obtain Jannah. Not just by being related to so and so individual, not just by hanging out with so and so individual. That's not how you get to Jannah. Sure, our environment has a role, it has an impact. The whole nature versus nurture debate, yes, it has an impact. But that's not the only thing. These individuals were the wives of prophets. These individuals were the wives of prophets. Nuh alayhi salam's wife, Lut alayhi salam's wife. They're the wives of prophets. What better company could you have than them? She was the wife of Fir'aun, the most despicable individual on the face of the earth, who killed children. When he had a child, baby was born, he would kill that baby because of the dream that he had, that some baby from Banu Israel is going to overtake my kingdom. So let me tell you this quick story, which Abu Aliya, he mentions that اطلع فرعون على إيمان امرأته. اطلع فرعون على إيمان امرأته. Fir'aun, he came to find out about his wife believing in Allah. فخرج على الملأ. So he went out to his comrades, and he asked them, ما تعلمون من آسيا بنت مزاحم. What do you all know about Asiya bint Muzahim, my wife? فأثنوا عليها. So they began praising her. She's so dedicated. She's just a great woman. She's so generous. She was known for her generosity. فقال لهم إنها تعبد ربا غيري. He considered himself as Lord. He considered himself as a Rabb. So he said that she worships a God besides me. And you know what happens to individuals who worship gods beside me. فقالوا له اقتلها. They said to him that why don't you basically go kill her. فأوتد لها أوتادا وشد يديها ورجليها. They took her and they dragged her in front of all of the maids. They dragged her in front of everybody in the castle. And they tied her arms and they tied her feet. And she was being tortured day and day. She was being tortured day in and day out. And they decided that they're going to throw a big boulder on top of her just to finish her off. And when she was in this state, before the boulder was going to fall upon her, she made this dua, the dua that we recited. يا رب ابنِ عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. That, oh Allah, at this moment when she's about to be killed, she said, oh Allah, I want near you عندك بيتا في الجنة. I want near you a house in Jannah. I don't want it anywhere else but by you. And she specified عندك, and she mentioned that first. I don't want anything else but عندك بيتا في الجنة, near you a house in Jannah. And save me from Fir'aun and his kufr and his shirk. وَنَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, and save me from his oppressive nation. And when that happened, when she made that statement, none other than Fir'aun walked into the palace as she was saying that. So she heard him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right then and there showed her her place in Jannah. فضحكت حين رأت بيتها في الجنة. So she began smiling when she saw her place in Jannah. She began to smile and she began to get excited. She's tied up. Her feet are tied, her hands are tied. And she started to smile when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed her this miracle of, this is going to be your place. You want a place by me? This is going to be your place in Jannah. This is what happens when you strive in my path. This is what happens when you speak up for the madhloom. This is what happens is when you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nobody else around you is worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His sake and His sake only. And the scholars mention when she states رَبِّ ابْنِ عِنْدَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ, they said that اختارت الجار قبل الدار, that she preferred being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before mentioning that she wanted a place in Jannah. She first mentioned عندك, I just want to be by you, and then after that she mentioned بيتا في الجنة. What a beautiful way to live. What a beautiful way to end your life. We talk about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when she mentions إنما الأعمال بالخواتيم, that actions are based off of their endings. What an ending that was. What an ending she had. And she was smiling and smiling and smiling, and Fir'aun said, ألا تعجبون من جنونها, is she crazy? Like, what's wrong with her? She's about to be killed. She had everything and she just lost it just because she believed in the God of Musa and Harun. That's why she lost what she had. And now she's smiling. Little did he know that she was smiling because she saw her place in Jannah. That's why she was smiling. So he said that إِنَّا نُعَذِّبُهَا وَهِيَ تَضْحَكُ, she's smiling, we're going to punish her even more. But they didn't know. فَقَبِضَ رُوحُهَا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took her ruh, took her soul before that punishment actually happened to her. Before that boulder fell on her and her jism, her body, her physical body was in pieces, but that didn't matter because she didn't feel that pain because her ruh came out. Once your ruh is gone, right, that pain was not there. The pain was not there. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved her and granted her that spot in Jannah. She was promised Jannah. We talk about the Sahaba that were promised Jannah. Asiya radiallahu anha was also promised Jannah. And she eats and she drinks and she enjoys a much better palace than the palace that she had on this land. And the ajib thing is, this ayah is a clear proof that when we seek protection in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, let me repeat that, when we seek protection in Allah and Allah alone, and we resort to Allah and Allah alone, and we have that sincerity in our heart at the time of trials and at the time of tribulations, we see the examples of the prophets. But how about the examples of non-prophets as well? Like Asiya. What happened? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala countless times in the Qur'an mentions what they will get and what they will obtain and what they will receive. And nobody else can take that away from her. She had everything. She had everything. You know, quote unquote, she had everything in the dunya. She even had that palace. She had all the money in the world. But what did she want? She wanted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She wanted that house. She didn't want that palace. She wanted to be near Allah. Near Allah and near Allah alone. And when we have that type of mentality, where when we are afflicted with the trial, and the first thing that comes to our mind is, how can I please Allah in this situation? Even if it displeases the entire world, even if it displeases the entire humanity, I could care less because it pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then guess what? You're going to be in everlasting bliss in the next life. But when we flip the script and we do things to please human beings and not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then guess what? You might be able to please so and so individual in this life for X amount of time, but you don't have the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then guess what? We all know this life is going to be lived for a few days, few years, few decades, however much. Then we're going to be in that everlasting connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And she chose that jar, ikhtar al-jar qabla ad-dar. She chose being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before she chose that house in paradise. And it's at times like that, it's at times of imtihan where there's a statement that's attributed to Ali radiallahu anh, which he said that عند الامتحان يكرم الرجل أو يهان, that at the time of afflictions, at the time of trials, is when your true colors show. You're either going to be honored like Asiya was, or you're either going to be disgraced like Fir'aun was. عند الامتحان يكرم الرجل أو يهان, that at the time of trials, at the time of tribulation, your true colors come out. You're either going to be honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you're either going to be disgraced in the most scum of the earth like Fir'aun. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to give us our criteria in life to be to attract the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all facets of life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to speak up when individuals are being oppressed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not aid those that are the oppressor. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the qurb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the number one criterion in the way we live. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.